Hi, YouTube. So, today's topic, we're going to talk about the 10 warning signs that your finances may be going off track. I know there are times where we all feel that maybe we can barely keep our head above water. At least I felt that way early on with my finances. But there were warning signs that things were going awry, and want to get into that today. And the first major one is you're living paycheck to paycheck. If you are living paycheck to paycheck, chances are that you are counting down the days until you get paid again. There isn't enough money at the end of the month, and there you're just living really close to the edge as far as your bills and your expenses. And that's a major warning sign for you. It's like a red flag. What are you going to do if something goes wrong? A major emergency, your car breaks down. You're not really prepared if you don't really have a buffer between you and the next paycheck. So, what do you do? If you're experiencing this first warning sign, one of the first things you can do is start tracking and budgeting, and maybe try to tackle one bill at a time and get ahead on one item. Even just saving a little bit at a time, or even increasing your income just a small bit and reducing your expenses can make a major difference as far as living paycheck to paycheck. So that's number one. Number two, you're maxed out on your credit cards, or you're relying on your credit cards just to sustain your life. And I'm not saying that the use of credit card is bad. There are some definitely good points about using credit, especially you want to increase your credit rating. Maybe you are relying on building up points and earning rewards. That in those instances are fine. If you're responsible with credit, I don't mean you. I mean, if you're using credit just to sustain your life, you're using for groceries and meals, and you ran out of money. So the only way to survive is either maxing out your credit cards, and little by little, you're going up to the max of what your credit cards are, or you're relying too much solely on credit to sustain your life. And I know life happens, and there are things that, sometimes you lose your job, or maybe your hours are cut down. And there are times where maybe you do need to rely more on credit cards than other time, especially when you're first starting out. But this is a habit that you want to break if you've started it. You want to take a look at your spending, see if there are areas that you can cut back, and focus on building a buffer to eliminate the need and the dependency on the credit cards, and really budget. So if you're starting to use it to pay all your utilities and your food and your groceries, start being mindful of what the costs are on every item so that you can buy things on the sale. And I know these are small solutions. The other thing you can do is potentially work more or reduce some of your major expenses. But relying on credit cards is not a sustainable approach. So someone telling you to get out of it isn't something to kick your heels up and complain about. You're in a situation that can get worse, and you need to address it now. Number three, you're consistently avoiding your bills. You're either paying your bills late, or you're missing your loans and your maybe your car payment, and you're falling behind. Now, this can do a really big damaging effect to your credit score. Now, your credit score is used by lenders. It is even used by, when you need to go rent an apartment. They look at your credit worthiness, whether or not your ability to pay things on time. And these things stick around with you. And then let's not forget to mention that if you start paying things late, you're getting hit with fees, potentially overdraft if you're going over on your credit cards. And those fees add up over time. And then what happens is if you reduce, or I'm sorry, you overuse your credit cards, your credit rating is not going to be great. And therefore, your interest that you pay on the credit card is not going to be great. So it's going to cost you more just to use your credit. So, what do? If you're missing payments, chances are you're not paying them on time, or maybe you're just not paying attention to when they're due. Set up automatic payments to make sure that you're on time. And if you cannot be on time, contact your creditors and let them know that you're struggling. See if you can go on a payment plan and see if there are other ways that maybe you can sell things around your home to come up with a way to have money to tackle your debt. Watch things around the house, watch your utility usage, find other ways to come up with money that you can use them for your credit card. Number 4, not having an emergency fund. You're unprepared for the unexpected expenses, and they always come. I know the emergency part is like, it's particularly if you're living paycheck to paycheck, you don't have any extra money, and coming up with any money just feels difficult. But yet, when you get paid, you're able to pay your taxes. You're able to pay Social Security. Those things automatically come out of your check. And so you have to treat savings like a tax. And so consider even preparing a little bit for life's little hiccups. And sometimes these can be major things. You have no idea if you're going to get hit with a job loss, a medical emergency. So you have to be prepared. And if you're not prepared, you're going to go right back to the cycle of borrowing on your credit cards. And that's not a sustainable approach. We already talked about that. So what do? Start small. I talked about this in another video. Even saving $5, like from every $20 bill that you break, put $5 aside. Maybe consider doing some kind of matching for yourself. If you're out spending money and you're picking up a cup of coffee and you can afford that cup of coffee, take that same amount of coffee and put that into a savings account. Start small, even $10, $20. It's going to make a difference over time. And then the other thing you could do is create the habit of saving. And so one of the things that I did is I always try to, in an emergency fund, sort of try to pay like one bill off a bit early, so that God forbid something happened, at least no matter what, my car payment was paid 1 month in advance. Try to pay things down so that you have it. Now, emergency fund, you need the money to for your emergency fund. So clearly paying your bills ahead is really about getting out of paycheck to paycheck cycle. But start saving even a little bit at a time, put it into a separate account, and try to do it automatically. If you're taxed 10% of your income, try treating savings as a 10%, and it's going to add up quickly. Number 5. This one hits home for me, and it's really a tough topic to talk about because people don't want to hear that borrowing money from family and friends is just not a good idea. I understand there are times that you're in a pinch, and I've been both on the receiving and the giving end. And like, I borrowed from one of my sisters when it came to college. I didn't have enough, and at the time, they did not allow us to take the maximum, all of tuition, all of room and board. You just couldn't take it out in loans. So you had to come up with the rest of the money yourself. And so I borrowed money for that. I also borrowed from my mom in the past when I was young and I needed a down payment for my first car. I borrowed for that. So I needed help with that. But it's not a solution. If you're borrowing, it's going to put a strain on the relationship. The problem is you might have every intention of paying that money back, but if you're not paying it back in the time frame that they think you should, and they see you going out and doing anything with the money, they're going to start judging you, and that's going to put you in a very uncomfortable situation. And so you do need to live your life even while you're paying back money, but the chances are, if you need to borrow it, you're not planning effectively with your money, and that's a major red flag for yourself. So you need to start saving for an emergency fund. You need to be able to lean on yourself. You're an adult. It's time to start acting like it and save money on the side. So review your budget, find ways to increase your income, start putting money aside the same ways you did for your emergency fund, and be responsible for yourself. You have no idea the financial hardships that your family may be under. how difficult it may be for them. So it's really not fair for them that you're coming to them and treating them as if they're your bank manager or they're your loan officer. It's not a way to be. So relying on family and friends, not a good idea. Definitely not good to your relationship. They're not your personal banker. You are. So be your own personal banker. Number 6. I've mentioned this one before, and this one is called your debt to income ratio. If you're finding that your debt to income ratio is extremely high, that means you're over leveraged. That means that you owe more to bills that are debts than is reasonable. And so what ends up happening is you end up having higher interest payments on that debt. Your life becomes much more of a struggle and much more difficult. It's more likely that you're going to end up in a situation where you run out of money to pay everything if you are over leveraged, and then that will lead you to running to payday loans and use of credit cards. So try to really limit your use of going into any payday schemes because you're out of money. And a solution would be is really look at all your debts. If your debt to income ratio is very high, then you got to pay down your debts. The quicker you pay down your debts, your debt to income ratio will go down and your life will become much more easier. So create a repayment plan, look at all your balances, all your debts, create a payment plan of how you're going to pay it off and try to reduce the amount you owe. And that's going to help reduce it. And then maybe there's a possibility that you could refinance things to lower interest rates, but prioritize, an approach for yourself. Either you're going to do the debt avalanche approach where you're looking at the higher interest rates so that overall you end up spending less money, or you're going to do the debt snowball approach, where you take the smallest balance and you tackle paying that off first so that you have some quick wins, and then use any free money that you freed up and go after the next debt. I also do a combination of the two. I naturally just did that. For some of the smaller ones, I just paid off quickly, and then I looked to see which one was the higher ones when they're kind of similar in amount, and you combine the two approaches and pay off your high interest debt, especially if you're not able to refinance to or lower rates. Number 7, this is a real red flag. If you are, and it may seem minor to a lot of people, but if you're consistently going overdrafting on your bank account, that's a sign of a big problem. That means you have poor cash flow management. You're not really being, maybe you have an overspending problem. You're overindulging. You're not watching your expenses. And overdraft fees are not cheap. And if you don't have overdraft, you could end up getting your bank account closed on you, especially if you do this multiple times, freezing of your account, taking longer for your money to clear. It's just not a good solution to be, in. So if this resonates with you and you see yourself doing this and you hit overdraft, start paying attention to what you're spending. Look and set up alerts for yourself and try to keep a healthy buffer, not an emergency fund per se, but a healthy buffer within your checking account so that you minimize the risk of going into overdraft. Number 8. This one is a definite red flag. You are avoiding your financial statements. You don't like opening them. Maybe the whole thing is just overwhelming. So you have no idea how much debt you have. You're avoiding your financial situation. And that's a clear indicator that you're in denial of whatever your financial situation is. It's probably worse than you think it is, because the longer you ignore it, the chances are the avoidance game just makes it get worse. So ignoring your finances it doesn't make it go away. It actually makes things get worse. So if you're not looking at your finances, how are you going to even know what you owe, what your expenses and your bills are, even to uncover patterns that you have that you might not even realize that you have? So it's like driving, but instead you're driving in the dark and you can't see? No. What do? You got to open up all your bills, put them all out. Look at each one of them, write it down, see what you owe, and prioritize them. Make sure that you're setting up automatic payments to avoid late fees, and contacting your creditors if you find out that, wow, there's a bill that you actually haven't even paid because you didn't even open it up. See what you can do if it's in debt collection. See if you can negotiate paying a smaller amount off, and then work on paying them off. Number 9. This one is near and dear to my heart because it really is an important. Um, Not enough people are saving for their retirement, or if they are, they're touching their retirement and they're using the money as if it is an emergency fund or a bank account. And honestly, this signals a real big problem because it means that totally just focused on today. They don't have as much ability, they're not able to control their impulses, and they want instant gratification. Everything is for today, and they're not thinking about their future. And I know if you are one of the people watching one of my videos and you're young, you think retirement is so long away, and it may be, but time is on your side. The sooner you save in your retirement, the ability to have compounding working for you is miraculous. You end up having to save so much less because you started early. And let's say you didn't start today and you are my age. It just means you're going to have to save a bit more. You're going to have to come up with creative solutions to cut down on your cost and find money that you can automatically invest. The key is that you have to do it automatically. And then as you do get raises, you just have to dedicate making sure that those raises go in to your retirement account. So if you haven't started, don't beat yourself up. Just stop rating your retirement account. It isn't a good idea for your future. And start investing and saving. Get the company match. That's like free money. And the number 10 thing, overall, the 10 warning signs that your finances is out of control is if you're frequently experiencing constant worry around money, financial stress and anxiety, and you're overwhelmed to the point that it's making you ill, that's not a good place to be. That's a real clear indicator that you're either not making enough or your expenses are piling up. If it's affecting your sleep and your stress levels, stress is a killer. Stress, chronic stress anyway, can lead to anxiety, depression, insomnia, and even things like heart disease. And then, not to mention what it can do for relationships. I always find that when you really are stressed about something, it means that you just don't know anything about it. And so try to educate yourself about money. The more you learn, chances are the less stress you'll have around it. We all have to use money. Money isn't evil, but it's all something, a lot of people think it is, but it isn't. Money's just a tool that we use. And unfortunately, we all need to work to live, but you don't need to have money controlling your life. So if you're feeling overwhelmed and stressed, you just need to regain control of your money and your finances. And maybe consider talking to a financial coach, a fee-only advisor, and a therapist if you're encountering like significant stress over the idea of just even managing your money. Friends, family, people can help. But chances are, if you really are frequently dealing with stress around money, you're probably dealing with an avoidance issue as well. And then you're not looking at your finances, you're letting things get out of control. So it's probably one of the issues that is more often overlooked, but it probably means you're running into most of these 10 issues around money. Anyway, this is Regina from Simply Fundamental. I hope everyone is doing well. I honestly, when I put this video together, I did it because I think this is what the algorithm wants. YouTube probably wants something about 10 warning signs that your finances may be out of control. And I wanted to try to attack it in a way that give you some practical approaches that you could do around your money, and know that you're not alone. A lot of people feel stress around money, and a lot of people are living paycheck to paycheck. As a matter of fact, people who are in the six figures are living paycheck to paycheck. But it doesn't have to be this way. You can implement strategies, you can learn about money, and then you can get really wealthy just by making some small changes. Um, and especially if time on your side. If you have time on your side, you're in a really good place. Anyway, this is me signing off. I hope everyone has a wonderful and healthy and safe happy new year, and I will catch you in the new year. Take care, everybody, and thanks for tuning in, and hit like and subscribe, and I will catch you on the next one.